Welcome to Cringe and Crumble, the podcast where we dive into real-life experiences and raw, unfiltered conversations about life, dating, and relationships.
Join us as we share our own stories with those of our guests that will inspire you to connect with others in a new light. Whether it's overcoming heartbreak,
navigating the dating world,
or finding new ways to live in your truth,
we've got you covered. So buckle up and let's get ready to
cringe and crumble.
Woo!
I literally just had to laugh. Since we almost killed ourselves. We actually almost burst our eardrums.
Yes.
With the volume of our intro that we did so well.
Well, it definitely woke us up from a long week already.
It really did, and and I think we needed that. So that's actually really great.
Yeah.
And I also want to put full disclosure because I know I probably sound stuffy, but it's just the residuals of a cold that I had. So that's why we've been late.
You
on our
sound
episodes.
fine. You sound great, girl.
So if I do that nasty sniffling sound, everyone's like, ew. It's just because I'm a little, I'm well. I'm not sick, but
yeah.
It's neither here nor there. But anyway, how are you, Vanessa?
I'm good. I'm already ready for the weekend. It's only Tuesday. I'm already ready for the weekend. It's been a long week already, but I'm good. I'd rather be here than anywhere else.
I know that's the crazy thing. Like I'm with you. Like I'm exhausted, but I think like this just makes life a lot easier because I enjoy doing this, and it's not like my real job where I'm just like I really have to mentally stimulate myself. I'm not saying this is not mentally stimulating, but this is just more so like amazing conversation that we get to have with each other every week. So
definitely.
I truly appreciate that. So and so that's how I felt for the week. But let's jump into this episode. So the title of this episode is called The Emotional Con Artist.
I love this title.
Yes.
I love it.
You were the genius that came up with this lovely title after that lovely story I told you.
Yeah.
About that situation, which we will dive into later on.
Mm.
But okay, so to kind of set the stage, so basically what's an emotional con artist? So let's just define what's narcissism.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with the Oxford English Dictionary as always. So it says that narcissism is a self-centered personality style characterized by a grandiose sense of self-importance, a lack of empathy for others, and a constant need for admiration. So what is your definition of narcissism now that you hear that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just someone who is self-entitled. They don't have nothing else matters to this person except for what matters to them. Everything in this, in their view is either affecting them or and it's someone that doesn't have the capacity to put themselves in other people's shoes without thinking without thinking of themselves to begin with.
Yeah, I totally agree. My definition is the same as yours. A narcissist just lacks empathy. Basically, they take advantage of others and for personal gain, but they also, I like to think that they demean and verbally abuse and manipulate others.
Right.
So it's something that's it's a conversation that we have to have, and because I think we've all probably been with a narcissist in a relationship, or if it's even like a romantic relationship or a friendship. But it's also like, how do you actually look for those different traits of that individual, right? Like what are those warning signs and let you know that this person may have a bit of an issue that's not in your favor, right? So it's interesting because I actually wrote down like what some of the narcissist tendencies. And I think one of the big ones is that they're entitled and they're usually very egotistical. They are the person that's like in the room. They have the big voice. They need to be the center of attention. And I've dated someone just like that. But then also they can have a bit of insecurity at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think narcissism, the biggest culprit of becoming a narcissist is insecurity. And you ask any psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist, whoever is in whoever's studied narcissism has always mentioned that's always stemming from some sort of insecurity and um, you know,
But they also don't want you to know those insecurities, right? It's
right,
not something that they would actually showcase. It's
right,
more like to hide those insecurities, they make themselves bolster them, their ego and their style, their whole being.
right. They create this other
Fantasy world, basically.
right, right. And they typically characterize it as a personality disorder, which I think it's to some degree it is a personality disorder. However, I would not want the narcissist to know that. I wouldn't want to characterize. I don't want them to use it as an
Well, yeah,
excuse
then
because that's
also
very
I think
possible.
I think we all know that if you do any psychology will tell you that there is a narcissist disorder, right? But then
Mhm.
also I think there's a just people who are just genuine just narcissists. Like they don't have a disorder. They're not so far on that spectrum that it's like you have been subscribed to this
Mhm.
disorder, but it's more so they have probably grown up in a household where they have lacked, their parenting
Mhm.
style was very different and they didn't understand what it meant to empathize with others or
Mhm.
to be able to communicate in a different way. And so
Mhm.
that kind of gave them their narcissist, but they're not like it's not a
It
disorderly.
became
And
like a learned
yeah,
behavior. Yeah.
yeah, it's one of
Mhm.
those things, it's like those social cues, right? So,
Mhm.
and so that's a good example. So people can't be like, "Well, I have a disorder." No, you just a straight up narcissist. Okay, like,
Yeah, like don't
d-
use it as a cop out,
no, yeah,
Yeah.
and but go define it yourself and go figure it out, or go see a therapist or someone so you can actually.
Well, the thing is, I don't think narcissists would ever a true narcissist wouldn't do that. I
Well, it's a
feel I
fact.
feel like I believe, truly believe that narcissists don't ever claim to be narcissists. They don't believe it. They feel that they're entitled and they're right, and
Mm,
it's you that's doing this to them and creating this. Is making them do the actions that they're doing. It's because of you,
yes.
and they'll never go to therapy for narcissism because they're not a narcissist, apparently.
No, even if you got in a room and everyone told them they would be like, "No, that's not true," and I
Yeah,
plead the
everybody in the
fifth.
room is wrong. I'm right. You're all crazy. And, you
Yeah.
know, you guys just need to learn how to accommodate to my life.
Right? And you're like, "Okay, if the whole room is telling you one thing and you're the only outlier, you're not special, okay? You're
Right.
not unique, so go sit down in a corner somewhere." Um, but then it also brings us, to that conversation of we all have a little narcissism in this, right?
Mhm.
And that's okay because
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that you're a bad person.
Yeah.
It's just that when you are so far left on that spectrum,
Mhm.
to where it actually hurts those different individuals that you are around, is that's when it becomes a very narcissistic situation, right?
Yeah.
We're all allowed to have our different types of like my big thing is like we're successful women, right? So you
Mhm.
have a sense of confidence in that. You have a
Mhm.
sense of like expectation when it comes to your
Mhm.
next job or your next relationship. And
Yeah.
that's we're allowed to have those different types of boundaries, shall we say,
Yeah,
and
it's a form of
expectations.
self-protection.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to have that, in yourself to self-love, it's
Mhm.
a form of self-care, self-love,
Yes.
self-respect. Okay, like there's certain things that I'm not okay with being okay with,
Yeah,
and I don't
like
want it
I
around
want to look
me.
good, I got to get my hair done, my
Right.
nails done.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to get my
Yeah.
facials. Like that's cool. Like
Mhm.
if I can afford it, I'm going to do it, It doesn't make you, I don't know, a narcissist. It just makes you I'm doing it for myself, not
Right.
anyone else,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? So,
Mhm.
I think yeah. So, there's nothing bad to be said there.
Yeah.
But so now I have a question.
Mhm.
Have you ever dated a narcissist, or at least you think you have?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've never dated a full, like, out of the park
Say
narcissist.
out of the I was gonna say out of the pocket.
Out of the pocket. No, like home run kinda narcissist, like, they're, like, all the way out there. No, I've never dated that kind of man. I've known people to be that, as a person who's observing, and I've seen it, how it affected their relationships and the
Mhm.
people around them. I've seen it. But as far as full-blown narcissists, I have dated narcissists, but not to that extent. The narcissists that I've been with are they're different kinds, and they're different from each other. One of them was a little bit more of like a quiet, like, type
Yeah,
of
more like a,
person.
subtle in action, passive aggressive narcissist, right?
Yeah,
They're less assuming.
yeah, exactly, but then you get caught up in, like, "Well, why am I just doing like, why do I have to do everything that you want to do? Like, why does it have to be around, like, what your likings are, what how you see the world?" Or you know what I mean? It just
Oh, he's manipulating you.
yeah, yeah, totally, it's I mean,
Because
that's
you're
what they
basically
do.
becoming an extension of that person.
Right, right, and that's the narcissists are master manipulators, whether it's, like, a quiet one or an obvious one, so,
Yeah.
and then, like, the other narcissist was he he basically just created this world of guilt.
Mm.
He made me feel guilty for not being his problem solver, you know? Like, he had a lot of issues, and he created this extreme amount of guilt towards me because I wasn't helping enough.
Was he making up these
No, he
problems?
had some things going on, but there are things that I can't fix. It's a personal, like, issue. Um,
Mm.
but he he created this, like, sense of responsibility that I had to fix him, you know?
Mm.
Like, it was my job to fix him, but you need to fix yourself, and
Yeah,
only you can do that. So,
that's true.
yeah, so
It's very disturbing.
mhm. But, I mean, I wish him well. I hope he I hope he figured it out.
I hope he's, riding off on that right horse somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. So, it's still narcissism even though it's not like it wasn't obvious, but, yeah, that's my stories.
Yeah. Well, my story, of course, because it's inspired your lovely episode of The Emotional Con Artist. So I to be honest, I didn't even know that person was a narcissist until the second time around. So let's just
Mm,
dive into that real fast. So it's like I dated this guy, he was really nice. He just came off as just like this very loud, rambunctious guy who just literally he had to be the guy in the room that everyone was like looking up to and they respected and it was cool, right? You're just like, oh, he's just a big bro, he's cool, whatever, we're having a good time. But he was such a gentleman, right? And I really kind of fell for it. But then also he had some luggage, some baggage with him, right?
some luggage.
I was like some luggage because he came in with
He came in with Louis Vuitton.
now, girl, I was wearing Louis Vuitton. I don't know that Target special.
Target special.
That's what his baggage was.
8 pieces for $100.
Right? They can all fit inside of each
Literally.
other like a little Russian doll.
The little Russian doll luggage. Wow.
Okay, I'm sorry, but he did come with baggage,
Yeah.
right? Because he was married before and he had kids, right? And so the long story short with the story that he told me was that, you know, he was the victim, the wife and kids are not talking to him. He's a really great guy. He doesn't understand why is this way. He's been trying and extending an olive branch to really get back into their lives, but they're just being really mean to him and they just do not want him in their lives. And so I'm like, well, maybe, he's a good guy. Maybe, he's onto something and, I feel bad for him. And so so these are stories I'm listening in on. I'm like, okay, he's my guy. This is what's happening. And then what I started noticing in a relationship was that he always made time for other people. But
Mhm.
then when it came time for me, it was like he would commit, but then he wouldn't commit all the way, right? Let's
Right.
say, for instance, we're going out to dinner, but then friends are flying into town. Like he'd probably find out that day and he's like, well, I can't have dinner with you. I need to have dinner with these people. And it's like, so be it. And you're just kind of like, okay, cool, whatever. But then he started doing that a lot until one time he actually just kind of vanished. And it was like a whole weekend he just went silent on me. And I'm like, where are you at? Like, what's
Mhm.
happening to where I'm going stir crazy? And, he comes back like after the weekend about like, oh, I saw your messages, but I was too busy with them and I just had to make sure they were okay. And I'm so sorry I couldn't balance both of us. But then, how are you doing? We should get together. And it's like, no, I'm deading this issue. Like this is not how I want to be treated, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, goodbye. It's like, you know what? You may have some issues you need to kind of figure out. this whole dating thing is not good for you.
Right.
I go live my best life. 2 years later, who comes back through the text message world? This lovely human. And he comes back and he's love bombing. He has done all the work on himself. He's gone to therapy. He's told me how he's talked to his therapist about me and how he needs to make his life better and how he's going to be this great, outstanding gentleman that I need him to be. And so I'm like, you know what? He's put in the work. Like, let me give him another try.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. Everyone gets a second try. No more. I'm done with that. Don't never do this again in your life. So I do this, and we make all these great plans. And we actually had a trip planned, and I'll never forget. And he likes to be the man, so he's like he had paid for everything. He's going to be doing everything, and I'm just showing up. And then the trip comes, and I'm like, okay, hold on. I know we've gotten everything booked, but where's our plane tickets? Because we need to make sure we're going to be getting it at the same time because he's coming from different locations. So then I call him, and he's like, oh yeah, about that trip. We're not going on that trip anymore. I can't come. And I'm like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, this is like the next day we're going to be going.
Right.
And he's like, well, I can't go because my nephew needs me. He has to go to basketball practice. And I was like, what the fuck? Are you serious right now? And he's like, yeah, but, I'm really sorry. And I'm like, and he just dead silent. And I'm like, what? What? And then he's just like, yeah. And so I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I got fucked again. So then I'm like, please don't ever talk to me again. But he's like, well, I will make it better for you. I will send you on your trip and at least you can live your life. And I'm like, cool. Day comes for me to leave. I reach out to him. Nothing.
No ticket, no
No
nothing.
ticket, no text message, no phone call, no nothing. And I'm just like, what? I'm living my best life. You come back in and you're just making all these great ugh.
So I'm gonna add a little more details to your story because I could feel like you're just you get frustrated just
Ugh.
even like yeah. But before that, I remember you telling me, like he came back, he went to therapy and he was actually doing the thing. Like he was
No, duh.
coming to see
No,
you.
yeah, he did the love bombing.
He was completely um like there. Like he was the
No,
man that
he
you
was the man.
yeah.
He did good.
And then all the way up until, like, literally the day before, like,
Yeah, he
that
just
is what he was like, he was totally again, he was an emotional con artist. He was conning your heart to get what
of
you
course.
want. I mean, to get what he
Oh, well,
wants.
yes, he did 100%.
Yeah, and, doing these little dinners and having these good conversations, like, long-term conversations and all that,
Yeah,
just to con and just drop you like, like you didn't do anything for him, which you did. You gave him your time, you gave him your attention, you gave him
yeah,
support when he needed it.
yeah. It's just it
Yeah.
blows my mind.
Yeah.
So what I did after that was I was like, "You know what? He's a narcissist. He's a hot damn mess. Let me just I bet you if I call him right now, he's pick up his phone." And it was like a month later. And I remember I messaged him and I was like, "Oh, I need something done." And he immediately messaged me back, "Oh, hey, how are you doing? Of course I'll fix that for you. What do you mean? Why
Well,
wouldn't you
because
trust
he
me?"
broke it too. Like
Yeah, he did. He broke a
yeah.
chair.
Yeah.
And so he was like, "Of course, I'm gonna fix it." And he's like, "Why would I never fix anything for you?" And I'm like, "Do you not realize what just transpired a month ago?" But
Mhm.
also, this comes to a realization that narcissists live in their own fantasy world, like nothing ever really existed.
Yeah.
Like
They do no wrong. They
no,
truly believe they
did
don't do
no wrong.
anything
But then it's like
wrong.
he has no concept of anything. Like it's like, what? What are you talking about? And then you're just
Yeah.
like, my guy, like you're the same person
Mhm.
who literally just came in my life and shook it all up and then decided you got what you needed and just went to go leave on out.
Mhm.
You're just a hot mess. A
Right.
hot mess.
Yeah, and the thing with some of these narcissists too, especially ones like the one you described, is that they feel that they don't even get hurt. Like you can drop them like a fly, and it's like not like it didn't even bother them. It's like no sweat off of them because they they feel that they were okay. That they had every reason. Like their reasons were valid, and it made sense to them. And anybody they feel like other people will be acceptive of that.
Of course. And
Yeah.
then the arrogance of it, right?
Right, yeah.
And I also I kind of realized that he had had a sense of he had to have a sense of control, right?
Mhm.
And his whole dynamic that was surrounding him and the situation was basically that he's controlling, right?
Right.
He's got his nephews depending on him, he's got his sister depending on him. So
Mhm.
he's having a pseudo family with his sister as opposed to his real family because they're
Yeah.
not there, and he
Mhm.
is just like, "Oh, this is my fun family," and I'm like, "What are you fucking your sister? Like, what's happening here? This makes no
Oh
sense."
god.
But this is what's happening in that moment, and but to him, it's great because all these people are depending on him, and he's needed.
Mhm.
And sometimes I guess when they feel like they're not really needed, they just go off and do their own
They
thing.
yeah, they create this, like,
Yeah.
world of, like, "Well, everyone needs me."
No one needs you.
Yeah.
You don't even need you.
That's funny.
But that's sad, but we should talk about the traits of narcissism though. So like you
Yeah.
literally kind of pinpoint some of those traits in that
Mhm.
story of mine,
Mhm.
with that individual. But I think the main one, I think out of all the traits that we have listed, I think one of the biggest ones is really that's extreme self-absorption.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a me world out
It's
there.
a me world, yeah.
Everything
Mhm.
revolves around that individual.
Mhm. And then when you're that self-absorbed, then it creates, like, little things that follow that, like, you
Yeah.
start to see that the narcissists they have a constant change of friends or, like, a lot of friends, because they need the love from everybody, and they wanna show, like, how, like, what a showman they are and
Yeah,
how
it's a
accommodating.
revolving door of
For
friends,
sure,
but it's
yeah.
also because they're basically utilizing these friends to get to where they need to be, right?
Mhm, exactly. They're not gonna be friends with you if there's nothing that you can provide for
Yeah,
them.
if you can't provide them with anything
Even
good,
even, like, a compliment is something that it's being provided to them. So, a compliment a minute, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're there for the minute, then you've served your purpose.
yeah, or they're making these moves in their careers and they're trying to do this, and
Right.
if you got the right
Mhm.
connections with the right person, they're gonna utilize
Mhm.
you, drop you, find that next person, and they're just basically stepping on everyone until they get to the top of what they need.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you also have the arrogance, which I think we really hit on that.
Yeah.
Um, I can tell the other story about the friendship version.
Yeah. Let's talk about
Let's talk
friendships
about
and
friendship
narcissists.
narcissism, okay?
And
I had a friend, and she was a really nice girl. I had a
Mhm.
friend for a brief span of time. I'm super sorry I got out of that relationship because she was a little certifiable crazy.
A little.
She was one of those people that was super self-absorbed, like, she really thought the whole world evolved around her. The reason why we actually connected was because we're in New York City and it's all fashion, right? You're fashion week, you're doing these, you're going to parties and you just start connecting with other girls who vibe the same way that you vibe, right? And
Mhm.
you're going out to great restaurants, you're eating good, and you're just having a good time. And I met her when we were doing a show together, and like now she's doing her whole reality thing. But the crazy thing is like I started realizing she would just drop little nuggets here and there, right? To where it would be like everything, like all the conversations for some odd reason had to always circle back to her. So let's say, for instance, I was like, you know what? I went skiing in Mammoth and I met like, I don't know, some famous person. And she'd be like, oh my God, I didn't go skating, man, but I met that famous person at this party and da 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 da. And you're like, okay, we don't relate on everything, but she
Yeah.
always finds a way to make herself relatable to it. And
Mhm.
then it always goes back to her looks too, because she wanted to be a model at the time and still does. But at 5'7", which we both are, and if we're not Kate Moss, we're not making it, right?
Mhm.
But long story short, we went to this this event and we were all dressed up, right? Because it's a fashion event, you gotta wear the best thing, right? And we looked really great. She had a beautiful dress on. Everyone looked gorgeous. And I'll never forget, we were all in a circle and somebody said to her, "Oh, I really like your dress." And all of a sudden she's like, "Oh my God, stop it. I'm so sick of people looking at me for my appearance and my appearance only. Like I'm more than just beauty." And I was like, "What the fuck just happened? No one said anything about what you looked like, just like we like your dress." And then she started getting emotional and she was gonna start crying. And I was like, she just made up her own conversation in her own little world. Like, what world is she in? And then she literally just like stuck on it. And she's like, "I'm just so sick and tired of it." And I was just like, what is wrong with this girl? I don't I was like, "How do we become friends? Like, this is not right." you know? And then I started realizing too, and we would go out and, you talk to guys and a guy's not talking to her and she feels like it's the end of the world and like she wants to leave because she's not the guy. The guy's not specifically talking to her. And I'm like, listen, like, no one cares about this. Let's just keep moving on. But it always had to go back to her. And
Yeah.
it was always about her looks that she thought everyone was looking at, no one was looking at it, and her
It's so
false
hard
sense.
being this beautiful.
Yes, and her false sense of reality. And I was just like, Jesus, we're gonna pray for you. And so then I realized I just could not be her friend. After that, I
Yeah.
was too smart for that because I was just like, what did I just witness? And then I just started adding up after a while. And you're like, I don't need this type of friend in my life, And
Yeah.
but then you also kind of understood too that she's probably utilizing you because I knew certain people and she needed certain things, and it's all about what's the next best thing.
Right.
And when you realize that, you're just kind of like, you know what?
Mhm.
I'm okay with being your associate, but you're crazy though. Like I don't want
Yeah.
to have you associating with my friends
Right.
and this is what's going to happen. They're like,
Mhm.
Tanisha, what did you bring around us? I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know who she is either. Like
She's made for reality
she
TV.
really is made for reality TV. That's all it is a lot of fun narcissism. So yeah, I don't know if
That's
you had any
funny.
friends that are also fits in that bucket.
Not that certifiable crazy. I haven't seen that. But I mean, I've been around friends or people that have that self-centered, mentality, and they don't even know it, which is really funny. I'm like, but like you really
You
are
think you
reacting.
think they don't know?
They don't, well, no, you're right. I'll rephrase that. They don't believe that there's anything wrong with how they're reacting
Mm,
to any kind of situation that makes them uncomfortable. Sometimes you just got to sit in the mud for a little bit and
mm.
kind of, you know, rally with everybody, and these they're not they're not made for these muddy waters. They can't track. They sink.
Well, those muddy waters, that sounds like what is that thing? Like it's one of those things like you sink to the bottom, like you're in the swamp thing. I forget what you call
Oh,
that. That sink thing. I don't know. Whatever. We know what we're talking about. I forget what you call it.
Oh my gosh, I'm like
It's
blanking
like
that.
the thing, the quicksand.
Yes, I'm like I'm
No,
thinking sand dune. I was like, it's not sand dune. It's something.
they're
Yes,
in the
quicksand.
quicksand. Yes, basically that's what they're in.
Right. They can't stomach it.
No, they can't. But you still got to tell us about the individual. Your one friend who always knew that he was beautiful.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about him. Yeah, man. That's a shame. It's like a shame. It really is because I really thought I knew the guy. You know what I mean? And it turns out no, like he was pretty narcissistic. I mean, it was very clear that he did no wrong. Oh, he had said something like I know for a fact that like I've gotten through life and I've gotten, where I've been, like, where I've gotten in my life, being able to party with celebrities and do it because of my looks. Like, I mean, I got a job because of my looks. I got this because of my looks. And I'm like, he's like, me, I wasn't that smart. And I'm like, he's like, but it's because of my looks. Like everybody just wants to hang out with me because
He seems
I'm,
like a lovely person to hang out with. I
uh,
can't believe you guys were friends. Like, oh, we should all be friends.
yeah, you know what? It you know what? I've known him for a long time, and I think he never got that real. I think low key, like, you could always be a narcissist, but then you start, like, nurturing the narcissism because you're like, "Ooh, this works," and I think that's what happened with him.
Yeah, see, like he doesn't have a disorder. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, he just
But
sounds
it was
like
also learned behavior, you know what
from
I
his parents,
mean?
right?
Yeah, his parents, I'm sure, like, many people.
You're so beautiful that you get everything you
Yeah,
want.
and people would validate it. Like, he'd find people to validate that for him, and I'm
Who
like,
are these humans?
when you're fishing for compliments, you're gonna find them,
Of course, because then you
you know?
surround yourself with all the people that's gonna tell you what you want to hear all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah,
And that's how you pick and choose your friends.
yeah, but I was just, like, blown away. I'm like, "You're really a like, you're saying this with your mouth. You're admitting to this."
He's vomiting at the mouth with
Yeah, and I'm like,
all these terrible
"Okay,
words.
now I know where your mind's at and what your intentions
I
are."
just hope that he never ages or, he doesn't lose those looks because I don't think he has anything else going from what he keeps telling everyone because he's only gotten everything because of his looks, and if anything needs his brains or
I
anything
don't know if
else,
he's telling everyone that or
I
if
don't
I
know.
just, so for some people, for some reason, people just think that I'm a tellable person. Like, people can tell me things and I'm like, "That's what you wanna tell me?
They
That's what you wanna
they told
admit?"
you that in private until you got a podcast.
I don't give a shit.
Then you also have those that are very
He's
envious.
definitely not listening because we ain't friends
Well,
anymore,
because he
so,
can't utilize you for the great things that he needs anyway. He's totally that type of
he needs
person.
he needs Jesus and then some because, yeah, that's that what's it called? Disorder? Personality disorder is on another level.
Oh, he's got multiple personalities.
Yeah,
God bless
that's
his
okay.
soul.
I wish him well, honestly. He used to be a good person. I
He
don't know
used
what
to be a good
happened.
person. Oh.
He can get there, hopefully, one day. I won't be around for that, but
No, no, no,
yeah.
no. We don't need to be
Yeah.
there for everything else.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, no. No. Which brings me to my other story about this other guy I dated. A mountain air friend.
Oh my god, yes.
Mountain
Yes,
air.
Mountain
Yeah,
Air. We did mention him on one of our
we
I think
did.
our first or second
I have no
podcast.
idea, but
Yeah.
he is actually an emotional con artist. So he's on the flip side of the narcissism side, where he's not that egotistical one. He's not the loudest person in the room. He's actually the most introverted, quiet, most passive aggressive. Not in like a he's not passive aggressive like in a bad way, but just very passive in his actions and very laid back to where nothing
Mhm.
seems to rattle his
Mhm.
soul. And that was what I was attracted to him because I was like, well, he's introverted. I'm extroverted. I'm super loud. We can kind of make this work. And nothing really rattled him. So everything he was cool about. Like he was a really great guy. Like he made all the plans. We would go to amazing restaurants. He would just make great vacations and like we went to a spa. We would do all these great things together to where, you're introducing him to your friends and you're like, and this is going to be the next level, right? Because he's just such a great person. But then with this type of narcissist is that you never know when there's trouble in paradise because they never ever tell you anything, really.
Right.
Not unless something may trigger that person to tell you small details about the past that probably has triggered them, you would never know until it really boils over and then it's just over.
I'm gonna interrupt you because when they do tell you the problem or they tell you something, whatever, they either use it for blaming someone else or they use it to show a victory
Oh,
story.
that's facts because he was always blaming his ex-wife
Mhm.
about how she was just mean to him. So he's victimy, right?
Mhm.
Everyone's always mean, and
Mhm.
he's the victor because now he's out of it and he's the better version of himself. And you're like, okay. But then you're like, but he wouldn't divulge too much, but just enough, little things. But then you're also kind of like, did he not really resolve what was happening with that? I don't think he really got over it. But then, but it's neither here nor there because he wouldn't talk too much into it. But you're like, well, everything's going good here, so I don't have to worry about that past. Fast forward, we're in this couple months in, we're having a great time. And he goes skiing because he loves skiing. And I'm waiting for him to come back skiing because I'm like, "I'm gonna cook dinner." We're like, it's super exciting. Nothing is different than any other day. Just, we're dating until he falls off the radar. And I'm like, "Where are you at?" Like, "I'm gonna cook dinner when you're coming home, da da da." This guy never says anything. Like, he just literally just goes dead silent for like 24 hours. And I'm like, "What? Did he die?" We had this episode before, did he
Yeah.
die?
Did you die?
And then he didn't die. And then he sends me this long text message, this bitch. And he goes in to tell me how this mountain air has him thinking about his life and his future and the things that he wants in life, and that this just wasn't it. And he doesn't want to do this anymore. Honestly, did this bitch just break up with me with mountain air story? And he's just got lack of oxygen to his brain? And he's just like, "Yeah, and I'm sorry. We're gonna break up, and I'm gonna go skiing with my sister across the country." And I was like, "What is is this? I was like, who has my voodoo doll with my name on it and they're doing bad things to me?
With their sister.
Right? With his sister.
So
And he
weird.
never said anything after that. Then he comes back 2 months later.
Mhm.
This time he's a different narcissist because now he's happy. I guess he got all that ski out of
So in
it.
theme with, Halloween, the ghosts coming back from the
Right?
dead.
And so he's super happy. Now he's coming in. He is love bombing. He's gaslighting. He is just super excited. Like, oh, let's go out. Tanisha, I'm a different person. Men just say, I don't even know anymore. They get on my nerves. But he's saying all the right things, and you really believe in these things because he's out whining and dining and he's turning up different. And I'm like, oh my God, like he's really changing. Same me. Lord Jesus, I was special. I don't know why. And then, of course, then I start seeing the same patterns from the last time because then I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, is he like, is he kind of like, I don't know, moving back a little bit? I don't know what's happening. Once again, it's supposed to be cooking dinner. And then he's like, I'm like, you coming over for dinner? And he's like, no. I call him on the phone and he's like, oh, about this. I can't do this anymore.
I got some more of that mountain air.
I was like, oh, I
What?
was like, wait a minute. I was like, fool me once. Shame on me. I was like, Jesus Christ. And he's like, I can't. He's like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And I was like, I was like, you know what? Go find Jesus because you're fucked up in the head and just stop this situation. I was like, I don't know what your problem is. I can't deal with this anymore. Just like whatever. And so I
Yeah.
actually didn't tell my friends about that. So now they're gonna be like, Shanisha, you actually did that. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Mhm.
So fast forward, year later, who pops up in my Instagram?
No way.
Mountain man wants to be Instagram friends so he can start chatting with me. And I'm like, he doesn't even know he's not smart. You can just chat with somebody anyway, not being their friends. So yeah, that was my yeah. I mean, what did it say? Like
Yeah.
narcissists, they don't really change. They're usually
No.
pretty stay the same,
No. And he
pretty
was
much
probably, like, using, like he was using you really
as an emotional crutch for whatever
totally. It's,
situation
like,
that he was going
exploiting, like,
through.
the fact that, like, you're again, a good person, like, you're there, you're stable, you know? He probably has so much instability in his mind, and he's trying to make up for it, and he's, like, not valuing anything.
No,
Yeah.
he's not.
Yeah, and he's, like he has and again, like, another trait is, like, just lack of empathy. Like, he really didn't
No.
he like, to keep coming back and forth, like, there's no like,
There's no
you're not
point in that.
sorry.
You're
Yeah.
not sorry.
Yeah.
You're playing this tug of war with someone's heart
Mhm.
and their mind,
Right.
and you're, tell them what they wanna hear just because it
Mhm.
makes you feel good, and you're gonna get out of it what you need, and then as soon as you do, you just,
Mhm.
eject yourself out the
Yeah.
relationship, but it's just not nice,
No, it's not.
But, I always say you live and you learn, so I didn't learn from it, I did. I'm never
Mhm.
doing that second thing ever again. I've picked up on these traits,
Yeah.
and now I'm just like, I'm just gonna be with myself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. Once you I feel like once you, like, meet a narcissist, you can't miss them, right? Like,
No.
those cues come up real quick.
And if you haven't and you're probably in a relationship and you're wondering,
Mhm.
just really, really listen to those conversations because if they start sounding one-sided.
Yeah, or they're envious. That's another trait too,
Mhm,
when you can sense like some envy
mhm.
in you, and what's weird because I had this problem with one of the narcissists is that I've you know I felt like he was envious of me. Like, how can you be envious of your partner? Like, if your partner is your partner, like, there's I have traits that you can't have and you have traits that I can't have. Like, that's typical in a
But
relationship. But then again, he was like envious of me for some
because of
reason.
your successes and because you're not dependent on him. He needs to have control.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean that's
That
true.
is complete
Mhm.
control. If
Mhm.
you are out succeeding this individual who probably thinks of himself
Mhm.
as the man of the household who provides and does all this and this and this, and you're just living your best life, and he's like, "Oh, but she's making more money, or you're doing X, Y, and Z." You would think he should be, he should be actually putting you on a pedestal, like, "Oh my god, my girl's doing this. I'm super excited," because it's a 50-50. But to him, it's like, "How dare she out succeed me? How
Yeah.
dare she have these type of
Yeah.
relationships and be happy?" And he is not.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah, and I've seen that not only with myself, but in other relationships, like, outside of myself, like, friends that there was, like, that similar trait of, like, they'll never, like, out blatantly say that they're jealous or envious, but you can, like, in hindsight, once you're out of it, you're like, "Wow, like, he really was jealous." Like, in even in arguments, it's like he would point out all the things that I've, like, accomplished and, like, throw them in my face, like I didn't deserve it,
That's
you know?
bizarre.
And I've seen that in other like, that same quality in other people that are narcissists.
Yeah.
That was a big shocking moment for me because
Yeah.
I I've never felt envious of anybody I've dated in terms of, like,
Why would
their
you?
successes or their accomplishments. I was, like, so proud, I was, like, really
Yeah.
proud of them. I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, that's my man." You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. You're
Right.
supposed to be like your icing on your cake, right? You bring what you bring
Mhm.
to the table, he brings what he brings to the table, then you wanna elevate each other, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And if he's undermining that, that's not a relationship. He's in a competition and he just needs
Mhm.
to go find a competitive friend to be with and not a
Yeah.
girlfriend.
Right. Like, I mean, geez, if you're, like, arguing about, like, who's better, like, that's just I don't know, it's
Yeah,
it's just
no.
so weird.
That's very disturbing.
It
I'm
is.
happy you're out of it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, me too. That's long
I'm
gone.
happy we're at all this stupid stuff, but it makes
Yeah.
for great content.
Major detox. Oh, yeah, I saved some of those traumas for this for these
I like to think God
for
put us
these
through those.
podcast
God put us through
episodes.
these traumas because he's like, one day you're gonna have to share in this, and sharing is
Mhm.
caring.
People will learn.
They will learn from you. So with that being said, what did
Yeah.
they learn today? Like, what did we tell them? I think in conclusion though, um, what did we learn? So in relationships, oh, it's like I think you said before, it's important to be aware of the signs of narcissism and set healthy boundaries, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I think it does make sense to make sure that that person is not sucking the life out of you and making you feel less than the person that you really are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that toxic relationship, I've said it many times before, but you don't know when you're in it until you're in it. And it's just really important to be self-aware and just stay true to like your boundaries and stay true to your what you're looking for. Cause if you get off track, that's when you get lost into somebody else's like manipulation. And
Yes.
narcissists are master manipulators. So
Yeah.
they're pretty dangerous, and they can hold you back for a really long time, and then the recovery after getting out of a narcissistic relationship is brutal. It's so brutal because you continuously carry a guilt for some reason, and that's really hard to shake off if you've gotten too deep into it.
Yeah. That's a good way to end the episode.
Yeah.
Just make sure you're being heard and
Mhm.
get out of it. It's not worth
Yes.
it. They will never change.
Yeah.
I don't go back.
No.
I,
Yeah.
I think I think
Yeah.
we've told you enough. Don't
Mhm.
listen to me. I've gone back and I'm never doing it again.
I know.
All right. With that being said, I think we're done.
Yeah. That's great.
All righty. Bye.
Bye.